Hello and welcome to the Bucketlister Podcast. Join your host Keith Crockford, along with special guests who have travelled the world, here to share stories of their adventures and plenty of inspo to add to your bucket list. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Bucketlister Podcast. The first thing for me to do today is to wish you a Happy New Year, because it is the 1st of January. So Happy New Year to you all. Hope you are not struggling from your evening last night. And maybe you are listening to this podcast to recover from your partying, or maybe you just had a quiet one and you're catching up. But all that's left for me is to say Happy New Year to you, and let's look forward to a year of 2025 traveling and inspiration. And we will be here at the Bucketlist Podcast to try and provide you with that inspiration. And hopefully we're going to have some inspiration today, because I am joined by Bucketlister extraordinaire, Tom Lloyd. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Keith.
How are you?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yes, very well, thank you. And, you know, how many trips is this for you now with the Bucketlist Company?
8.
8. You've done 8.
I've done 8, and I've got more to come. More to come.
That's what we love to hear. And so I thought Tom has just returned from our Best of Thailand trip. And obviously, with it being a cold winter's day, it would be great to have a conversation with Tom and look at the Best of Thailand trip, how he found it, what they got up to, what he would change about it, and just kind of let's just get some, and just hear about the trip really and find out all about it. So, Tom, what first made you think of booking the Best of Thailand trip?
Many years ago, I'd been to Vietnam. I'd only booked the Vietnam, but there was a few people on that trip that had booked all the way through Cambodia into Thailand. Looking back, I had the option to carry on that trip, and I think there was a few regrets there, not sort of saying, ringing my boss, going, "Hey, boss, can I have an extra week off?" Funnily enough, I went back and sort of said to my boss, "Could I have had it off?" And you'd been like, "Yeah, you could have had it off." So I was like, "Oh." So it's sort of Cambodia's always on my bucket list, and I thought, well, you've done a Best of Thailand. Let's go. Let's enjoy it.
There we are. So, obviously, you were on one of our Bucketlister Plus trips. And for those that are listening that kind of don't know the difference, our Bucketlister Plus trips are led by one of our UK guides. And 9 times out of 10, the majority of the people who are on that trip will fly out together as a group. So how many were total on that trip, Tom?
I think it was about 14 of us-ish, give or take. Yeah.
So nice size group. Mix of males, females, couples.
A few couples, but mainly ladies, and I think there was 2 blokes, and then obviously Jake was the UK guide. So 3 blokes, a couple, and the rest were ladies.
And people travelling on their own, solo travellers, or
solo travellers. That were the ladies were majority, or myself. I think there was, apart from the couple, there was all of us were solo travellers. We all, I think some travelled together as friends, but all solos.
And what I mean, you've done a lot of trips with the Bucketlist Company now, Tom, and you tend to choose the Bucketlister Plus trips. What makes you go for those over the Bucketlister trips?
I know there's always that safety blanket behind me, so obviously all I have to do is pay my money, turn up, and enjoy it. The guide that comes from the Bucketlist Company, they are there just to, if anything does crop up behind the scenes, they are there. They'll fix it straight away. If there's a change in itinerary, they'll let us know. If there's an additional cost, like on previous trips, if something just happens to switch, it's like, oh, if we do this, it's a small extra cost. I don't have to worry about that. The in-country guide and Jake, they'll work together. Jeff on this one was fantastic. He did do his bit for us as well. But with Jake there, I never had to worry at any point on this trip if there was ever going to be a problem, I just knew it would be sorted, and we'd just crack on with the trip.
Perfect. So obviously, if you are going to Southeast Asia, the first thing you need to prepare for really is a long flight, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, both going east and west, both to Chile and sort of Bangkok, you're looking, this flight was 11 and a half hours going out. Not too bad. Flight was fairly good. Food was nice for flight food. And then obviously we arrived in the late afternoon into Bangkok.
Did you fly direct, or was there a
direct flight? Yes, straight there.
And in your obviously, it works out shorter with it being a direct flight. Obviously, there are lots of options for people from the UK or wherever you're going to get to Thailand. The last time I went, I had a changeover. What, in an ideal world, would you rather have the changeover, or would you rather have the direct flight in that instance?
It's an interesting question. I think I'd possibly go for the direct flight. Yes, it's a straight, long 11 and a half hour flight, but it's done. It's done, it's dusted, and that way then you can get there, rather than any delays that happen from leaving England to your first transfer, hopefully first and only transfer. If you do arrive in late, if there's any issues, it avoids all that. It's just up, take off, land, done.
Yeah, and you kind of got to hope as well that your bag made it onto the first plane. As long as it did, it's getting off and joining you at the final destination. There's less chance of that happening as well.
Yeah, so it's like, I've bought an AirTag these days just so I can just stick it in my main bag. And that way then as soon as I get off, if I can get some Wi-Fi, I can check it's arrived, and then that's one less headache to think about.
Yeah, I think I would, it's a long time to be sat down, isn't it? And that's the nice thing about having a change. At least you can get up and, you get off the plane, you can have a wander around, you can go and sit in a bar or get something to eat or do a little bit of shopping and then come back. But I think you're right. I think if you can fly direct, because ultimately, if you had to stop, you're potentially looking at like another 3 hours onto that journey, aren't you? With a decent time layover.
With a decent time layover, yeah. If it's minimum 3 hours, God knows however long you could have if you booked your own flights. But yeah, sooner you're there, the sooner you can enjoy your holiday.
Yeah, exactly that. So you flew straight into Bangkok?
Did straight into, I can't say the name of the airport, but Bangkok Airport for this. Yeah, flew straight into Bangkok. We arrived on what would be day 2 at about 3:30 in the afternoon. Though I think the majority of us flew out together, where we met at Gatwick. Grabbed some food beforehand, got on the plane, landed. There was about 4 of us of the group that were already in country at the time, so we met those at the airport. But no, Jeff met us at the airport when we landed, collected us, made sure we'd had everything, and then it was about 40-minute-ish, half an hour, 40 minutes. Coach ride.
I mean, you probably arrived in fairly good time, really. Another hour or so later, you'd have had that Bangkok, traffic of rush hour traffic. But that drive to get into the main town, can be half an hour, or it can easily be an hour and a half, depending on when you're going to hit that traffic. And you were staying in like the Chinatown area, weren't you?
Yeah, not basically a stone's throw from Chinatown. It was a really lovely hotel. We all got checked in. We got our rooms, got changed, took all our winter clothes off as we were leaving when it was cold, and then obviously sweating once we landed in Bangkok.
And what was the temperatures like in Bangkok and the humidity then?
Temperatures were quite nice. It was the humidity that got you in some places. It was just, you'd sort of be nice and refreshed in the aircon, and you think, oh, right, I'm all set to go. And within about 2 minutes of leaving the hotel, you were like, oh, Jesus, I'm sweating like there's no tomorrow here. You know, you just had a layer of sweat on you. But yeah, you don't go on holiday to worry about that. We're good as Brits at whinging about the weather, but when you're on holiday, it's you can take a little bit more heat than you would be back home.
Yeah, definitely. So how many nights did you have in Bangkok then?
2 nights in Bangkok to start with. Obviously exploring Chinatown on the first night, just trying to make ourselves tired before obviously catching the first night's kip. So we wandered around Chinatown, we grabbed some food, grabbed a drink. Obviously we found the local 7-Elevens, which, you know, after never knowing how quite important they were going to be throughout the entire trip for snacks. Ellie will know, if she does listen to this, that she was our Scooby Snacks lady, always sort of dropping in to grab something. Oh, we were all just going into 7-Eleven when we could to grab something sweet.
I didn't realise that there's now a speciality of travel called supermarket tourism.
Oh, really?
And it's basically people flying around the world to go to supermarkets to buy things that they can't buy where they live. And I think, you know, like the cheese toasty from 7-Eleven is kind of famous in the world of like gap year travelers, that everyone lives off the cheese toasties from 7-Eleven in Southeast Asia. So I think, you know, if you are going to anywhere in Southeast Asia, you know, but you know, Thailand especially, then, you know, do your research on 7-Eleven so you know what you can get in 7-Eleven.
It's so cheap as well. It's sort of like what's a bottle of Coke these days? 150 at home. It's less than £1 out there.
Yeah.
You know, all the biscuits and snacks, all, you know, 10 baht for a pack of biscuits. It's crazy.
Yeah, because Thailand is what, 8 hours ahead of us at the minute?
Yes. 7 hours.
7 hours ahead of us at the minute, innit? Yeah. So obviously you landing at 3:00 in the afternoon, in essence, was like your body clock was telling you it was already 10:00 in the evening at that point.
Yes. Yeah. So it was just trying to convince your brain to switch off when you went to bed, which, no, that never happened for me. I saw most of at least the first 2 nights before I actually got a proper night's kip. But
well, I think that's the problem, though, isn't it? Because you know, almost by the time you are going, you know, it's, you know, if you try and go to bed at 11:00 their time, like in essence, it's so much earlier in the day at home, isn't it? Like, so you can't sleep, and by which time it's time to get up again by the time you think about going to sleep.
Yep, but you just get on with it when you're abroad, regardless of what it is. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I managed to get some cups of tea down me and a little bit of caffeine, and lived off of whatever sugary drinks I bought throughout the day.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Is it's like learning to have that ability when you're on a trip like this, that's following an itinerary, is like, I'm very good at it, where I can sleep and catch up wherever I am.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that is the key thing that I kind of advise most people, is if you're on a bus ride for 2 hours, like put your headphones in and try and go to sleep, because like you don't know when you're going to get your next sleep sometimes. So having that ability to be able to
power nap your way
down, like, you know, we all know Lindsay really well. She's on a couple of podcasts with us now, and if I'm ever on a trip with Lindsay, you know, she'll basically tell all the guests, like, just as soon as Keith gets on a plane, just turn around, because before we take off, he'll be asleep. And it's kind of becoming a little bit of a running joke now in terms of that. But I think it's a great skill to have, and one that does kind of help you out. So what was day 2 in Bangkok then? So like day 1 was a like evening tour around Chinatown, and then obviously day 2 was your go and discover Bangkok day.
Yeah, so got up. I was up early doors. I just went down for breakfast as soon as I could. Second day was we had an e-scooter tour of Bangkok. I think there was a short bus ride, van ride to the shop. We all got our own individual scooters, and we literally just scooted our way around the city for, I think I've roughly worked out, probably about 10k. Stopping at a few temples. We stopped at a bakery, stopped for some street food, stopped and fed the turtles at a local temple. Yeah, it was just sort of, in essence, I had no time to be tired. I just had to get on with it.
But I think it's such a lovely way of seeing the city, though, isn't it?
Oh, of course, yes.
And I know when we did Chile and Easter Island last year, like we did a cycle tour of Santiago, and it's like you get to see so much more of the city rather than being on a walking tour or being on a get off bus tour. Like being able just to and you know, did you find it fairly safe when you were doing the scooter tour?
Fairly safe. Obviously, with the Chile and Easter Island trip, my balance, as you know, was never great. So I got escorted back. But with the scooter, I wasn't too bad. I sort of hung towards the back, but it was more than safe. The cars and the bikes drove around you. You were always to the side of the road. We think we maybe drove on a couple of roads for a bit, but other than that, we were just on the local sidewalks, pavements. Yeah, it was just. I didn't feel at all unsafe at any point. Nice, gentle ride around the city. Yeah.
Amazing. So obviously, you know, this is a best of Thailand tour. You know, there is so much to see in Bangkok, but kind of there is quite a lot of hustle and bustle in Bangkok. And the idea is to kind of get in there, see that bit, and then get out. So where were you heading next on the itinerary?
Itinerary was the next day. It was I think it was a fairly early flight to Chiang Mai, so it was a van ride over to Dong Mueang Airport, a short flight up to Chiang Mai, just over an hour, about an hour and 20 minutes. Again, you managed to catch up with some sleep then, took your headphones on, not much of an issue. We then drove, or we had to transfer them from the airport to our was it a hotel? More of a sort of rooms in the jungle, so to speak, or rooms on the hillside, which was really nice, lovely, clean, no issues. We all checked in. We had a few minutes, found out where all the amenities were, and then we had a walk around the local area, the village. We met some elephants on our walk, had some nice pictures.
Like you do, just meet some elephants on your walk. Like,
yeah, you just sort of, we were just walking around. The next minute, it was like, oh, there's 3 elephants just walked down the road. We walked to a little bit of a viewpoint where they were renovating some other cabins, so we all took some pictures, and then headed back to the hotel. And for that night we went to a local restaurant where I think the trend was for the few nights we were in Chiang Mai that we cooked our own food with the help of a local. So it was sort of a roadside restaurant. And we all I think we took it in turns in threes just to go in, and we all made a dish, whether it be pad thai, some noodles, obviously some for the veggies, the veggie options. They usually catered for the vegetarians on the trip. That wasn't an issue. Yeah, and we had some fresh fruit for dessert.
And in terms of, obviously, you know, elephant tourism used to be prominent in Thailand. Obviously, over the years, that has changed. It is now, you know, much more about elephant welfare, sustainability. Like, how did you feel? Obviously, a lot of the elephants have been rescued from the tourism, from the tourism industry, and obviously, we are still going to visit those elephants. But I'm just interested to hear your take on it in terms of, because obviously when I put this trip together, for me, it was about going and staying somewhere that really did look after those elephants. I didn't want to go to somewhere that felt like it was still part of tourism. But I'm interested to hear like your take on it as a customer on there.
Yeah, you could see the past history of the elephant, i.e., You could see the damage to their feet, paws, where the chains used to be, holes in their ears. But all the time that I had the opportunity to see the people that looked after them, that walked them, that cared for them, they were all nice. They were all gentle with them to such an extent of, it's a tiny person looking after a big elephant that probably, if you fell over, would crush them. You know, they were a little bit like pushy, but it was only just to make sure they went in the right direction, that the elephants were looked after and they didn't hurt themselves. It was never anything malicious against them. It was just, it's like, how does people like us get a several ton elephant to go in the right direction?
Yeah,
just a little bit of extra guidance to sort of go, this way, guys, this way. So yeah, from the times that I've seen, they were all lovely. They all looked after them. They fed them like crazy. I think they needed like 250 kilograms of food each day. So yeah, it was just lovely to see them in there, what is almost as close to the natural environment as we can.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, like there are so many, let's use the word, elephant sanctuaries in and around that area.
Yeah.
Some of them are quite big with lots and lots of rescue elephants in there. But for me, it was about going to a smaller sanctuary where I think, for me personally, I just felt there was more care there for the elephants. And I just felt like, you weren't. Yes, obviously, it is still part of tourism, because how do they afford to like feed them this money or this food without having the money from the tourists coming to visit? You can't go and rescue elephants and then, how do you? I mean, they even have to buy the elephants off the people in the first place. It's not like they get given elephants. They have to go and pay for the elephants to rescue them in the first instance. And it is, you learn so much about it when you're out there. And like you say, like these elephants can't be released back into their normal natural habitat. Like they've lived their life with a leader almost, or an owner. And I think, like you say, I do think, that some of these smaller sanctuaries, it is the closest they're going to get to live out a happy life. That would kind of be my judgment on it.
Oh yeah, the following day. Well, I'll just skip ahead a little bit. So the following day after sort of our first night in Chiang Mai, obviously they bring the elephants to your room door. So you get some food given to you in the morning. You get to sort of feed them, whether it be bananas or sugarcane, and it was just so nice. They just love the elephants. They just sort of helping them. Obviously, the experience of obviously actually getting to feed one was so nice. Where, it could be so different. There was two sections where the group was located. There was one bit down by the river. So obviously the elephants went into the river and they fed them from a height for the people that stayed in that part of the hotel. And following on from that, we went to the elephant sanctuary for the morning, or for most of the day. So we actually got to see where they live and such, or where they're looked after. So that was nice. It was a bit of a drive up. We got back on the back of a sort of an open van, and we stood up for the drive up. We got given a change of clothes. So obviously, if we got muddy and dirty, that got dirty, not our clothes. We were advised to wear swim shorts or swim stuff, because by the end of it, the last bit of the activity, we actually got to go into the river and bathe them. But yeah, when we got there, I think we were given a bucket of food each, and the bucket was stuffed so high, and we obviously got to feed them, enjoy them. They were so looked after. You couldn't see anything apart from their past markings. They'd all healed. We fed them, we walked them a bit, and then with a little bit of food motivation, they got them in the river and ended up. I think most of us got absolutely sopping wet through, because they then squirted, they then showered us all with water, and Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah, and some of the pictures that we've got are hilarious. I'll remember it for a long time.
I think like you say, like it is still tourism. Because they need to create revenue to be able to look after these elephants. Like I think that there is no way of them affording to take them out of what they had before. There still needs to be like some element of tourism there. But I think the welfare is so much better now, and they
Agreed.
are so much better looked after, and they are going to live out a happy life, and they are getting, like, I know when I was last over there, like just learning about the cost of the medication that they're having to give the elephants to because of everything that's wrong with them from years of being abused beforehand. But yeah, I think it is a must see. I'm kind of still on the fence a little bit about it, but I think ultimately we are doing good by going there and creating some revenue for them to be able to keep looking after them and keeping them happy.
Yeah, it's not like we don't have the opportunity to ride them. That's obviously not something that they do. All we are doing is just sort of feeding them, giving them a bit of exercise, seeing how they react in a natural environment, and then with a bit, as I say, with a bit of food motivation, they get washed and cleaned, and they play with us with putting water all over us. So yeah, I hope that they do take that as a bit of fun as well.
Yeah. So then you were back into Chiang Mai from there?
We had one more night or one more day in the countryside. We got woken up. Or we had the opportunity to wake up by feeding the elephants again. I think by some accident, I think some of us got food and others didn't. So we did get a chance to have some more time feeding them, which was nice. I think we had a short walk, the option was a short walk in the morning, followed by, you can either have a short walk in the afternoon, or you can go back to the hotel, freshen up, and then obviously we would all meet up for another locally cooked us helping food again. To which, for me, I like to keep active, so I chose the trekking on both morning and afternoon. I think in the morning we got to go to a waterfall, so it was a shortish trek to the waterfall. Went in the water, got wet, had a bit of fun, had some lunch there. Carried on trekking for a little bit. Picked up the people that wanted to go back to the hotel could, and by some small miracle, we only had about half an hour's worth of trekking, and I had a bit of a walk through the village. We had a nice sort of sewing lesson of how they make the scarves that they sell to us. So Angie had a go with a local lady, sort of did a bit of sewing, and thought that was pretty cool. And then it was literally a 10-minute walk down the road, and we just sort of chilled out all afternoon. The afternoon trek was literally over, and it was sort of like, well, that's nice. I'm not complaining. We got to see the countryside, got to chill out, relax, had some cold drinks, and then we enjoyed another meal cooked by the locals and us.
Nice. I mean, yeah, I did forget that actually one of the favourite bits is coming up that I missed it when that came about. But I think the next morning's activity is quite a good one, isn't it?
Yes. So obviously after we've come back, it's then obviously after 3 nights in a lovely place. I think it was a reasonable ride, but we stopped off and did some bamboo rafting, which was cool. So it's a little bit of a drive. Again, you wear your swim stuff. It's sort of in 2s and 3s, and then you spend, I think it was about half an hour just sort of sailing down the river. I think it's all dependent, obviously, on how high the river is, but it was fine for us. You do get a little bit wet, and it is a little bit of I won't say white water rafting, but it is certainly a bit of rafting in there, and you can actually have a bit of fun getting wet because it does get a bit bumpy at times. And then obviously once you've done that and dried off, back to Chiang Mai in a hotel for a night where you can, if you are a bit wet and sticky from the humidity, you can have a shower and a clean up. And then it was a head out to the night markets in Chiang Mai for some street food. Yeah. Oh, the night markets were heaving. So the bustling, the noise, the smells. Can't say some of the smells were nice, but yeah. But some of the food was lovely. I stuck to relatively safe food. I think I had some pork sausage thing that they cooked in front of me, and then I think I had a couple of sweet treats. Not wanting to risk too much because they always sort of say that there's always an element of bugs in the food. It's just us English people don't have enough exposure to those. So as long as you're sensible, you're fine. Choose the right stuff. So yeah, we had a few beers. We went to a couple of rooftop bars. We saw some of the Christmas lights obviously it was Christmas time. As we were going through the trip, more and more Christmas lights and trees appeared. So that was good for our last night in Chiang Mai.
And then I really loved Chiang Mai. I thought I preferred Chiang Mai to Bangkok, I think.
I can see that. It was a little less bustling. There was a chance just you can have more of a breather. Yeah, I do see that.
So where was it for you then after Chiang Mai?
After Chiang Mai, it was a flight down to, I think it was Surat Thani, if I pronounce it correctly, where it was a night in, I can sort of I don't know what the right term is, but it was sort of like a posh glamping, sort of like proper like tents, but there was 2 beds in it. There was a proper bathroom. Yeah,
it's almost like a safari tent, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, that's probably the best time. Yeah, a safari tent. Nothing. It's not going to fall down on you. You don't have to worry about putting it up yourself. It was just, because there's a few mozzies out there. Although people didn't like me on the trip because I think I stopped wearing mosquito spray by the midway point, and because I never got bit, and I was like, well, I'm not being sun lotioned and mozzie sprayed.
No.
So yeah, people didn't like me by the end of the trip because I think I had about 2 bites. But yeah, lovely. Another countryside really setting for this stop. It was a short flight. Napped on there, transferred to the safari tents. Really big, really nice place. I think we ordered our food ready for the evening meal, and then we went on a night safari, which was very cool. Got picked up, bit of a short ride in a van. Got obviously advised to wear long sleeve tops and a long sleeve thing just to aid with any obviously mosquito bites in the evening. But yeah, the guide there, she was lovely, really good English. We all got offered torches. Angie, one of the people on the trip, literally covered herself in head to toe. Didn't, apart from sort of her eyes, she was getting bit left, right, and centre, and so was Ellie as well. They both sort of covered up just to avoid anything crawling in under up the trousers or try and bite them. Yeah, we saw some spiders, we saw monkeys, we saw critters and ants and millipedes. The noise from the cicadas, they were deafening at points. But it was a really interesting, if not a bit scary at times for those if you're not a fan of the dark, with it sort of. But yeah, really good.
Bit like I'm a celeb, get me out of here then.
Yeah, a bit like that. I think a few people wanted to be, I'm fine. But everyone took part. It was all in good fun. Yeah, we all behaved ourselves.
And where was next from there then? We're moving further south now.
Moving further south. it was about a 2-hour van ride to Patong. It was sort of Patong, Phuket. We had 2 nights planned here. Explored. Obviously, the hotel was in Patong. Sort of, I think for what we discussed, it was sort of like Magaluf on steroids. You know, it was a lovely place, but it was so busy, so bustling. You know, bars, cannabis shops. I've never seen so many cannabis shops in Thailand in my life. You know, you see one every mile, probably. You know, or every couple of miles here. You see in one every other shop in Thailand. But yeah, it was, you know, bars, restaurants, shops, souvenirs. Yeah, it was a lovely place. So 2 nights in Patong.
Well, because they legalized it about 2.5 years ago. They legalized it. It was literally just before the last time I went out there. So
right,
it's kind of, and they haven't quite worked out the legalization process. So it's kind of everyone's sort of doing it their way in essence at the minute in getting away with it. But yeah, it's there's a lot of it out there. I mean, I remember when I went out there and it was, you know, like you get burger vans in the UK. It was literally like there were burger vans like set up like trailers that, you know, they just pull up and open the side up and it was just all out there. And so yeah, there was plenty of that. But again, it's not completely in. I mean, Patong is quite in your face, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
and I think you know it's part of it. You know, it's part of that Phuket experience. I think, and you know, we don't want to stay there for too long. But I think, you know, when you're traveling Thailand and you're doing the best of, I think you kind of need to go in and see it and experience it and live it, even if it's just for a couple of days.
People don't really mind you. If you're not interested, you say no thank you and they've left you alone. We had some time to obviously do a bit of shopping if you wanted. We had some free time. There was more than enough free time on the whole trip to, as well as the activities you're doing, you know, you can just go out if you want, or if there's a few of you that want to do something, you've more than got the time to go shop, enjoy, grab a beer, go and sit on the beach. But yeah, I was glad I experienced Patong. Maybe I wouldn't go back. I'd more go back to Phuket than Patong.
Yeah.
Patong. So yeah, day 10, it was a bit of a day in the van for a little bit at a time. So we went to visit some temples. There was 3 in the set area. All these temples have got weird and wonderful names that I can't pronounce, so I'm not even going to attempt to butcher them. So yeah, I think there was 3 temples in a little sort of area. So we went and saw all of them. Had some time. The guide on day 10, his English was, I think, the best of the entire trip. He was so emotive, so interesting. You know, any facts that you wanted to ask him, he could happily help you with. I can't fault the guy on day 10. He was amazing. So yeah, we had the chance to explore. We went to obviously Phuket, saw the old town, did a bit of a museum tour. We got to make our own lunch again. So if we didn't like, I was known throughout the trip, or by this point of the trip, as no spice. Don't like things hot and spicy. I'll happily have sort of flavors, but at least I could make my own food that wasn't spicy. No spice was my name. All the veggies got to make food that was for them. And yeah, it was just, the food out there is, for me, as long as there's no spice in it, I'm happy. It was lovely. So yeah, then back to Patong for the night, to when we were obviously pack up, and then it's to day 11 is your transfer to the gorgeous area of Koh Lanta. Back in the van, unfortunately, for a little bit of time. It was only about half an hour, over to the harbour, where we got our bags off, checked in for the boat ride, and would I say it's about the same size as the Maldives van boat, probably a little bit bigger, but the sea wasn't half as easy. It was flat. It was nice. If you can sleep on a loud boat, then you'll happily sleep. It was a lovely boat ride. Some stunning views of the islands as you drove across the bay. A quick stop at Kofifi Island, as it's sort of a water bus / taxi. Some people got off, some people got on. And then arrived at Koh Lanta for four nights. Yeah, four nights. 4 nights in Koh Lanta, which was such a beautiful place. You know, it was like a 10-minute tuk-tuk ride from the harbour to the hotel. We all got checked in. And it's even that good of a hotel that they even put your bags on the back of a golf cart to your room. And it was sort of like, luxury. They even sort of golf carted you down from the entrance to the reception area. And that wasn't much of a walk.
You're not used to this on a normal bucket list trip, Tom, are you?
No, but no, it was sort of like, oh wow, it was, you know, it was a nice, luxurious end to the trip.
And that's kind of like when I put the itinerary together, that was kind of that end bit was more about free time, like for people who wanted to go scuba diving, for people who wanted to learn to scuba dive.
Yes.
Like it was, you know, giving it as like have a bit of a holiday at the end of your holiday, almost more of that kind of relaxation time. And how did you find that?
So yeah, I it's weird. I'm not sort of a person that likes to sort of sit back and do nothing, but every so often it's nice to sort of do that, just sort of switch off in essence. Obviously the following evening I got a bit ill, so I missed out on one of the excursions that the group did. Between Jeff, Jake and the group, they decided to do, I was going to come to. It was sort of like a boat excursion, so they had the chance to obviously go on a boat trip, go snorkeling, see a hidden cave, go to a beach, sort of like a half-day trip out, leave at about 8, come back at about 3:30ish. So it was, from what the group said, it was an amazing day out. I was gutted I missed it. But again, I spent the day chilling, relaxing. I made sure I was better for the rest of the trip because you don't want to miss much whilst you're there. I'd spotted a zipline place. So fortunately, the following day I felt miles better. I WhatsApped the owner and organised myself. I offered any of the group if they wanted to come along. So I went and did sort of a little ziplining session. I think it was about 14 different sort of activities on it. They picked me up from my hotel. I paid my dues at the desk when I got there, did the event, and they took me back. I couldn't really argue for the service. I got a bottle of water and some fruit at the end of it. And yeah, I did yoga and a bit of yoga and a bit of Pilates in the morning as well. And then we relaxed with some food in the evening.
Certainly made the most of your time down there then. Yeah, and then of course then it brings the trip to an end and you've got to get back to the starting point to fly home again, didn't you? So it was a flight back to Bangkok, which isn't a long flight really, is it?
No. Again, most of the internal flights inside Thailand are only, I think they're under 2 hours, and I think most of them are under an hour and a half. So you can get your book out, put a podcast on, put some music on, and you just, by the time you've hit altitude, you're descending into the airport. So yeah, between the last nights in Koh Lanta and the last nights in Bangkok, lovely cliff top restaurant in Koh Lanta, which was lovely, and we obviously had a few drinks after it. Last night in Bangkok, we did Koh Sam Road. Bit of a long tuk-tuk ride to Koh Sam Road, but it was so worth it. Just sort of driving around in the crazy tuk-tuk driver that we had the first time. He was on another level. The rude words that were coming out of his mouth, wow. Nothing that I can repeat today. We had some food, had a couple of drinks in Koh Sam Road. A few of us then went on to Nana Plaza. Yeah. Which, for anyone else that's not heard of that before, it's the red light district of Thailand. Can't say I was particularly enamoured with it. It was...
Really, Tom? I wouldn't have expected that from you.
yeah, it's one of those that it's sort of like all the girls had numbers on. They were bored. It was nice to sort of go and see it, but yeah, no, it was one of those. So we just had a couple of drinks and then came back.
Again, it's a bit like you kind of feel that whilst you're there, you have to go and see it, because like Nana Plaza, Koh Sam Road, they're all places you hear about. If you've seen The Hangover, like it kind of is just part of Thailand tourism, isn't it?
Yes.
Whether obviously there is a huge part of tourism that partakes, but there is also another part of tourism that doesn't partake, but just feels that they need to go in, tick it off to say they've been there and seen it.
Yeah, as I say, I won't be going back, but just to experience it. So yeah, came back for the last night in Bangkok in the hotel. Then obviously woke up for a final day. It was 11 o'clock flight in the evening, so obviously we had a chance to pack, have a shower, get our bags in order, so we ready for checkout. We spent the day sort of looking around Bangkok, experiencing that. Went for some food, went to MBK, the shopping centre. So that was nice. Grabbed some food whilst we were there.
And the shopping centre there now are on a different level, aren't they? Like,
yeah.
The shopping in Bangkok is, if you are a shopper, like any brand you can imagine are in these huge shopping centres, aren't they?
Yeah, the amount of fake stuff out there. If you wanted something, Balenciaga or a Chanel bag, you could easily pick it up for a fraction of the price back home. It's just, was it 6 or 7 floors from memory on this particular shopping centre? And there's plenty of other places around that obviously are more what we're used to back home. But in this place, you started out like with a market stall on the bottom. There was a floor dedicated to food, a floor dedicated to electronics, entertainment. There was even escape rooms in the shopping centre, cinemas.
There is a lot of money in Bangkok, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. It's I just couldn't believe the size of it.
And then it was a direct flight back home.
Yeah, short journey back from the hotel to the airport, check in, no issues, and then slightly longer flight home at 12 and a half hours.
Uphill on the way back, Tom.
Sorry?
It's uphill on the way back.
So yeah, it wasn't too much of it's only an hour extra. I think I managed to sleep for most of it. Watched a couple of films and came home and quickly had to put a hoodie on because it was going from leaving at like 35, coming back to 6 degrees. But
which airline did you fly with, Tom?
BA.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. I can't. Yeah, the airport, the airline food's never the greatest, but it does what it says on the tin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really love this trip. I think it's such a good trip. I think, it does, when you think of Thailand and things you'd love to go and see in Thailand, I think it ticks off the main ones in the time period that you've got. Obviously, so many people go and spend a long time traveling around Thailand. And if you are going off to do a Southeast Asia tour over 3 months, you're probably going to spend a lot longer in Thailand than like you did on this. But, do you think in terms of seeing Thailand that you managed to do it in the time that you had?
Yes, I couldn't fault. It was a packed itinerary, but with the chance of some downtime as well. It wasn't sort of back to back to back. You had an activity in the day, you had some free time in the afternoon, or vice versa. Yeah, I really can't fault what I did. Yes, I was ill for one bit, which I'd have liked to have seen a bit more of the islands and the sea and snorkeled. But for the group that went, it was a really enjoyable trip. So many laughs, so many friends made. And I think we've managed to convince a few other people to book on further trips whilst I was there to see those people and friends again.
And who would you say this trip and obviously you've done a couple of best of style trips now. And for those that are listening that don't kind of know what that means, they are kind of the trips like this Thailand one where, it's pulling the best things out of that country and adding them to the itinerary. So who would you say this trip was ideally for, Tom?
It can be for anyone, whether you are a couple, you've still got the potential to meet solo travelers on that same trip. It's anyone can do it, whether you're young, whether you're old. Yes, you may sort of tweak depending on what trekking there is, but for me there was a how do I say it? There was an elderly lady, but she was more than fit enough. She happily did. She partaked in everything. She enjoyed it all. Both me as a solo traveler, as a younger person. There was a couple on the trip. They were more than happy, from what I could gather through conversations with it. Everyone could enjoy this trip. There is so much variety. There's so many options. If you wanted to go out for a meal as a couple by yourselves, there is more than enough out there. You can be as included or as solo as you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking. I just pulled up the trip sheet from the trip now, and it was quite a big age range on this trip. The youngest person on it was 27, and the oldest was 67.
Yeah.
So there was quite a big. And do you think, Tom, that? And I always think this, and it always surprises me a little bit, but I always think that you never really notice age on a bucket list trip.
No, we it's sort of like I'm always sort of conscious of, whoever's around me, I will help whoever I need to. We'll always support each other. So if someone's having an off day, can we carry your bag for you? What can we do for you? It's no matter who, we're not really bothered about age. It's sort of, I get to know them. I get to help them help them if I can. Yeah, it's just that building that group mentality and be like, right, we're all here to have a good time. We're all here to enjoy this. Let's make it the best trip that we can.
And, I remember seeing a message from you when you got back from this trip, and it was like, right, countdown to the next trip then. And you do quite a few trips a year. I think your holiday allowance pretty gets used up on bucket list trips. But what's next for you then, Tom?
So I've got the Uganda and Rwanda gorilla trekking trip. That's in about 45-ish days.
Counting down, Tom, counting down.
Not that I'm counting. And then in May, Cappadocia. And then at the end of the year, I've got the best of Morocco. Nice.
So I'm with you on the gorilla trekking one. I had to go and get my yellow fever done again yesterday because I lost my certificate and can't get another copy. So I had to go and get my yellow fever done yesterday so I could get my visa. So I've got a little bit of a sore arm at the minute. It's still a little bit dead from that one. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to leading that one with you. And we've got a really nice group heading out on that one. Nice full group for that one. Cappadocia, you'll love. And then again, you've got another best of trip in there as well, where you're doing the Morocco one. So a slightly shorter flight for you
yes,
to get to Morocco than that one. But, it's again, we've got a fairly long flight coming up to get us to Rwanda and Uganda in, as you say, around 45 days time, if your maths is correct. What's left on your bucket list, Tom? Like, I'm really interested. Like, when you book up so many trips, like, what's actually left to go on Tom's bucket list?
The world really has it. There's no people.
Do you know any countries you've done so far?
I'm trying to do 40 by 40. Right. I think I'm late 20s, early 30s now. I need to book some more trips that include more countries. So I've got, I think, 3 years to do maybe 10 countries ish. So yeah, but no, as I'll always keep saying to you, I'd like to do Antarctica.
It's coming. Don't you worry, it is coming.
But yeah, there's we've discussed things and you've got things in the pipeline that I'll happily book on once they go live. But the world's out there. It's just when I book it, I will happily go most places. People said to me, would I go back to Thailand? I would happily go back to Thailand, but there's many more places out there to visit. Mexico, Chichen Itza. I'd like to do Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. There's possibly a few places left in Africa. I'd like to sort of go Botswana and Namibia. I'd like to do Cambodia. There's so many places out there that are left to tick. It's just how quick trips that pop up.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think when you are like you are, in terms of, you've only got so much holiday time, and is there any destination that you wouldn't want to go back to? But at the same time, actually, I want to see as many destinations as I can. So probably, of all of the trips that you've been on, is there somewhere where you go, well, I definitely wouldn't go there again, but if the opportunity came, you'd probably go back to all of them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any place I wouldn't not go back to. Whether you've had a bad time or you were ill on that trip, I've enjoyed everywhere I've been. It's just there's so many places out there that I'd love to go to. It's if I've done somewhere, unless it's really hits my, I need to go back. I'd always love to go back to Vietnam. Yeah. I know there's a Vietnam and Cambodia trip that would, the food, the place, that really did stick with me. It's just there's so many other places out there that sort of, the Bhutan trip, the Rwanda Uganda trip, the Cappadocia. Yes, I've been to Morocco, but that was only to do the Sahara, so I need to go back and do the best of to tick all of Morocco off. So it was, I think out of everywhere, I think Vietnam is on the list to go back to. But
you'll be pleased to know, Tom, that we've just changed the. I think there's a trip November 26, which was a Bucketlister trip, but I have been made to convert it into a Bucketlister Plus trip, so 2 people would book onto it. So I am leading that one at the end of 2026, Vietnam, Cambodia. So there we are.
The only downside is I'm in Jordan, and at the end of that year.
Oh, we'll switch that one to another time. That's fine. Right, well, Tom, thanks ever so much for coming on and recording the podcast today. It's been a pleasure to speak to you as always. I think it's great having customers come onto the podcast, give us their experience of the trips. And obviously, it's great having someone like you come on, Tom, because you've done multiple trips before, different destinations. You can kind of really, put that against other trips that you've been on with us as well and compare it. Yeah. So it's nice to have somebody like you. And we are going to plan to do more of these style podcasts in 2025, because I think they're really useful for listeners to kind of get rather than me saying how great destinations are, which might come across, potentially to people going, well, you're just trying to flog that trip. Actually getting someone who's literally just been on the trip, I think makes a lot more sense to hear their stories, expectations, how they were met, how they were not met. And it's great to hear you again, Tom. And, obviously there are no problems, and there are plenty of trips for you in 2025 as well. So that's it from me from this week. Have a great New Year's Day. If you are listening to this podcast today on New Year's Day, if you're catching up, then I hope you had a smashing New Year's Eve. And all that's left for me to do today is to wish you again a happy 2025. I hope it brings lots of traveling to you. And obviously, if we can be of any help at the Bucket List Company, then please do not hesitate to give us a shout. And we would love to get you onto one of our trips to one of our destinations, either in 2025 or 2026. So anyway, that's it from me. I'll be back next week with another episode of the Bucketlister Podcast. But until then, thanks very much. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bucketlister Podcast. Be sure to click follow to be alerted for next week's episode. For more travel inspiration, check us out at www.thebucketlistcompany.co.uk or follow us on socials. See you next time.